You must have heard of the saying that goes, "One bad apple may spoil the bunch." And this is true, especially when it comes to the world of policing. Now, it goes without saying that cops are seen as heroes, and it's just a few bad apples that make the bunch look bad. Welcome to Audit Archive, where we run you through some of the most questionable and rather atrocious police encounters. Today, we have a cop that quite literally admits to being a tyrant, and then goes on to prove it. Let's dive into this encounter. On the 31st of October, 2022, James Hodges, a 61-year-old legally blind veteran, was crossing the street minding his own business when he was stopped by two Florida deputies with the Columbia County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Jamie Goad stepped out of her patrol car and immediately made contact with Mr. Hodges, claiming that she instigated the stop because she thought he was carrying a firearm in his back pocket, which in fact was just his cane that he uses as a navigational aid when needed. Mr. Hodges made it very clear that he was carrying no firearms.
Hi there!
Hey.
What's this in your back pocket? I just saw you walking it.
It's a navigational aid. What's the problem? You a tyrant?
Yeah, I am actually. What's your name and date of birth?
I don't have to give that unless
Yes, sir. I was investigating.
You have reasonable.
Do you want me to put you in handcuffs right now? Yes, sir, I do.
What is your suspicion?
It looks like you're carrying a gun in your back pocket. I'm stopping to make sure you're carrying it properly.
Have you ensured that it's not a firearm?
No, you keep turning so I can't see it. You don't have to be a dick to me.
Well, you're being one to me.
No, sir, I'm doing my job.
Am I detained?
Yeah, you are.
But Deputy Goad continued to pursue him regardless. At this point, it became clear that Deputy Goad had no probable cause to detain Mr. Hodges. Her suspicion of Mr. Hodges carrying a firearm went out the window as soon as he evidently pulled out the cane from his back pocket and showcased it up close. Yet, Deputy Goad informs Mr. Hodges that he is being detained, and then proceeds to demand his ID.
What's your name and date of birth?
It does not matter.
Yes, sir, it does.
Do you have a crime?
Would you like me
Call
to
your
put
supervisor,
you in? He's right here.
This was when Mr. Hodges requested for Deputy Goad's supervisor, who just so happened to arrive right on time.
Sir, what's she stop you for? For a walking stick.
So,
And it could look like a weapon. She asked you to
Really?
present it, okay?
Now she's asking me for ID.
Okay.
I don't need the ID unless there's reasonable articulated suspicion that I have committed a crime, am committing a crime, or about to do a crime.
Sergeant Randy Harrison made contact with Mr. Hodges, who was quick to tell him why he was stopped by Deputy Goad, to which Sergeant Harrison replied with a demand for Mr. Hodges' ID too.
Sir, and her suspicion was that you were armed, okay? And she's asking you for your ID.
Well, now she has verified that I am not armed,
Okay.
so there is no
You got
problem.
your ID or not?
I do have my ID, but you don't need it.
Okay. Okay.
Deputy Goad may have had reasonable suspicion to stop Mr. Hodges if she truly thought that a cane protruding out of his back pocket was a firearm. But once it had been clearly determined that Mr. Hodges was in possession of no firearms at all, any detainment following that would be deemed as unlawful. Despite this, Deputy Goad and her supervisor, Sergeant Harrison, worked together to place Mr. Hodges in handcuffs and searched his pockets. Mr. Hodges audibly refused to be searched, but both officers carried on regardless.
I don't know where his wallet is.
Where's your wallet at, sir?
I don't have a wallet on me.
Okay, where's your ID?
Where's your ID
In my
at?
pocket.
Which pocket?
You are not allowed to search me.
It's in this pocket.
There you go.
Thank you.
Mr. Hodges also demanded both the officers' names and badge numbers, to which neither responded.
I want your names and badge numbers.
1257 on Nick 65427.
Yeah, 4427.
Preferably
Hotel
your cards.
322-457-61-2540.
Sergeant Harrison then asked Mr. Hodges if he was legally blind, as if it wasn't already evident by the cane in his pocket. Mr. Hodges tells Sergeant Harrison that he is indeed legally blind, and that he had jury duty earlier that morning, which had been canceled, which is why he's out here.
Sir, you legally blind? Yes, I am. I had to walk up here in the dark for jury duty, which was canceled.
Sergeant Harrison then goes on to ask some more futile questions. Why aren't you using your stick? You don't have to use your stick all the time?
Why don't you use your stick? You don't have to use your stick all the time? Not all the time.
Bear in mind that the cane, which essentially started this ordeal, is far from the officer's concern. The cane remains in Mr. Hodges' back pocket throughout this confrontation, and neither of the two officers draw concern from it, even when Mr. Hodges pulled it out in front of them each time. This goes to show that the cane was never an issue to begin with. These officers had other, much more fatuous reasons to detain Mr. Hodges. After going back and forth over the police radio, Deputy Goad approached Mr. Hodges and yet again tried to impose unnecessary authority over him to provoke the situation even further, asking him, was it that hard?
Right, Mr. Hodges? Was that hard?
Which implied to Mr. Hodges that he should have just complied with their unlawfulness from the get-go. Mr. Hodges then rightfully implies that he will be filing a complaint against both officers, and that all of their unlawful actions will be taken into account.
It's gonna be. I want your name and your badge number.
Things take a sudden turn when Sergeant Harrison couldn't seem to have it anymore. The visibly frustrated sergeant decides to arrest Mr. Hodges for resisting arrest, shamelessly saying, "You know what? Put him in jail for resisting."
You know what? Put him in jail for resisting.
Okay. Alright, let's go.
I want your name and badge number too, sir.
Have a seat.
You want to pick my property up, please?
I sure will, after you have a seat.
You want to pull this out of my back pocket?
Sure. Here, I'll grab your jacket for you, too.
Mr. Hodges was arrested and charged with resisting without violence. Jail records show that Mr. Hodges was booked at 8:25 that morning and released 26 hours later. 2 days after his release, Mr. Hodges made a records request for the body cam footage and got it the same day. Columbia County Sheriff Mark Hunter said in a Facebook video that while reviewing the footage before its release, a sheriff's office employee discovered a likely policy violation and, since it concerned a sergeant, alerted their superiors. Later, on November 7, 2022, in the wake of the viral video clearly showing that Mr. Hodges had not done anything deserving of arrest, the single misdemeanor charge had been dismissed by John Durrett, the state attorney of the 3rd Judicial Circuit of Florida. That same day, Columbia County Sheriff's Office posted on Facebook stating that, "We are aware of the Columbia County Sheriff's Office body camera video involving the arrest of Mr. Hodges on October 31st, 2022. Sheriff Hunter is troubled by what he has seen in the video, and the matter is being addressed." An administrative investigation was initiated on November 3rd, 2022, when the incident was brought to our attention. If policy violations are sustained at the conclusion of that investigation, appropriate action will be taken. While we understand the frustration and concern associated with this event, please know we are working to resolve this matter as quickly as possible. In an arrest report written by Deputy Goad, she states that James was found to be in violation of Florida Statute 843.02 by obstructing the ongoing investigation when he repeatedly refused to allow identification of the object in his pocket, as well as refusing to identify himself. As the body cam footage shows, Mr. Hodges never refused to allow identification of the object. In fact, he was quick to pull the object out of his pocket and very stoutly present it in front of both officers. In the same video on Facebook, Hunter said the two officers had been found to have made policy violations, and that he did not believe the officers were guided by ill intent, but rather by frustration and failure to rely on their training. He also added that their conduct was unacceptable. Hunter has since apologized to Mr. Hodges, while announcing that Sergeant Harrison was being demoted immediately and suspended without pay for 7 days, while Deputy Goad was suspended without pay for 2 days. He also stated that as part of their punishment, both must go through remedial civil rights training. All in all, this entire ordeal illustrates why a few bad apples really do make the bunch look bad. Both officers had violated Mr. Hodges' rights and unlawfully exercised their powers on him. Mr. Hodges has since been thankful to everyone out there who supported him and helped make sure justice was served.